listeners. You are listening to a mini episode of That's Auntertainment. I am your pop culture maven, Jeff Malone. This is a Karaoke Korner mini episode of the show. And hey, so what does that mean? Well, this is the 40th edition of Karaoke Korner, so you ought to know by now, right? Well, happy 40th anniversary, Karaoke Korner. Well, if you're a new listener, I'll go ahead and explain it for you. Or if you're an old listener who likes to be reminded, I'll explain it for you as well. And if you don't want to be reminded, just jump ahead a minute or two, I suppose. Anyway, so usually on the show we talk about my Aunt Beth, my co-host Aunt Beth. We talk about entertainment, first, favorite, and forever, But here in the Karaoke Korner mini episodes, what I do is I ask someone that I know, could you do me a flavor and give me the names of a few musical artists? In the past, I've said a few, but I've specified it and said, you know what, let's stick with three. That feels like the right number, and that's usually the number I was getting anyway before I was strictly specifying a trio. So I asked for three musical artists, well known, at least well known enough that they've released a series of widely available recordings. And then what I do is I look over their respective discographies and determine the one song per artist that I think is the best song among that artist's discography to sing at a karaoke occasion. So, So what am I looking for in terms of criteria? I'm looking for songs that are familiar, but not too familiar. You don't want to be the millionth person to sing a karaoke big hit number one and hear groans from the audience going like, oh, here we go with this again. But you also don't want to be on the opposite end of the spectrum where people go, what the heck is this song? Did this person write this song and try to pass it off as a real song? And you also, but if you can find that sweet spot in the middle where it's like something that the audience has heard before, but maybe not in a while, it could be something special. And I'm also looking for emotional highs and lows, something that can tell a story and take the crowd on a journey. So what's the lineup for today? Well, it comes from a former guest of the show, perhaps a future guest as well, my friend Keara Callahan. She is the artist behind our current logo, and after she did that, I was like, why don't you join us as a guest on the show? So she came on for the Halloween episode that premiered about a month ago. And, well, I know Keara from a karaoke bar. That's her main place of employment. So I'm like, well, obviously I have to ask her for some suggestions for Karaoke Korner. And here are her selections. We've got Bruce Springsteen. We've got Mariah Carey. And we've got OutKast. Okay, so some well-known artists. So you figure, okay, shouldn't be too difficult. Well, sometimes when an artist is so popular and so prolific, then it does become kind of challenging. And it's like, it's hard to pick just one from each of these artists. Let's go chronologically in terms of when they first emerged in the popular music sphere. So we'll start off with the boss, Mr. Springsteen from the Garden State. And, we're talking about 50 years or so of music to select from here. So, Bruce is one of these guys. I've said it before in previous Karaoke Korner editions. There are certain artists where, there's not just one song that is good. obviously, of theirs to sing at karaoke. There's multiple ones. But if you had to pick just one, and I am telling myself, pick just one right now, what's it going to be? What's the best one for the widest ranging group of people? Could it be Born to Run? That's his signature song. I mean, even among all the hits he has had, I think that's the one that people associate him with more than any other. So that, that could definitely work. And I don't hear that too often at karaoke, but I think it's a little too familiar, perhaps. Or could it be Rosalita? That's a fun one. But I settled on what I believe is one of his earliest hits. And one that I think is pretty accessible, but also pretty unique, is a song called Spirit in the Night. And it's one of those songs that is like populated with these characters that are, I guess, are like from his childhood, maybe his teenage years, like Crazy Janie and who are the other ones? I've heard this song a million times. I should be able to name a Wild Billy, of course. And this song, I just told you at the beginning of this episode, I like to pick songs that tell you a story. This song is all about storytelling, and it's fairly lengthy as far as karaoke songs go. It gets dicey when you attempt to do something that's longer than 4 minutes. This one clocks in at 5, but it doesn't get boring. Sometimes when you see a rock song hit that 5-minute mark, it's because they repeat the chorus like 20 times at the end. But this is just like different new lyrics each and every time. And I mean, there's some repetition. We hear the chorus a few times, and there's also an instrumental break we get to hear the sax going wild. But it's not too indulgent. I don't think you're going to bore people with this song. Quite the opposite. I think you're going to hold your attention. And I can't resist a song that mentions a coonskin cap in the lyrics. So there you go. That's my Bruce selection. Okay, and I'm looking over all these folks, and yes, they all have appeared on Saturday Night Live at least once as the musical guests. So that should tell you something about their appeal as well. In fact, it looks like they've all appeared at least twice. Okay, on to Mariah Carey, who first emerged, I think her first album came out in 1990, I want to say. Now, Mariah is kind of challenging because I'm like, well, I want to pick songs that are accessible for all types of singers, all type of vocal abilities, and, Mariah is known for having quite the impressive range. She is hitting some notes that not a lot of people are going to be able to hit. Now, you can certainly try something like Vision of Love and just sing it however you can sing it. I mean, if you can sing it like Mariah can sing it, then please go ahead and do that. But if, your your natural octave is much lower, then do it that way and mix it up however works for you. But in the spirit of, picking something that's like something you can just dive right into. You're like, well, that might be one we'd like to avoid. So how about, let's go with some that are pretty big hits for her, but also fun and not too challenging, at least by her standards. So, Fantasy maybe is a possibility, or Touch My Body. Come on. Remember that? Jack McBrayer in the music video. Ultimately, I settled on a little number right in kind of like maybe a transitional point of her career, where it seems like she was really coming into her own, maybe a bridge between eras, and that would be Heartbreaker. And come on, this tells a story. Come on. I mean, she is a storyteller, isn't she? And I have personally sung this song at karaoke before myself, and word of warning, make sure you find a version that actually features the Jay-Z rap, because I didn't like whatever karaoke version I was singing along to. It was just going like da 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 during that, and I don't have the rap memorized. I know Mariah's parts well enough to get through it. So I was there was like a minute there where I was kind of flailing about and going, yeah. So there you go. A little caveat there. But yeah, I mean, this is a fun one. Mariah has some unique diction choices, some surprising words there. And, she's got a special thing that she often does, and she does it here at the start of the second verse. She really bursts in on that first phrase. So, definitely go for it there. Okay, finally we come to OutKast, the hip hop duo of Andre Benjamin, aka Andre 3000, and Big Boy, aka Antoine Andre Patton. Oh, they're both Andres in a way. Anyway, so yeah, this was quite challenging. I'm like, man, I don't know if there is a single OutKast song that I would recommend to everybody. Now, I mean, the challenge with a lot of rap is, you want to be careful to avoid the N-word. That's not as much of a challenge with OutKast. Maybe people who are more familiar with the deeper recesses of their discography might know what to avoid. But their biggest hits are relatively clean, or at least a few of them are. So they definitely had some mainstream huge hits, none huger than Hey Ya, and I'm like, I definitely considered that as my choice here, but even though it wouldn't have been too surprising of a choice, but I'm like, as well-known hit song that is, it's quite a challenging song. Like, you gotta keep up with Andre's pace on the verses. And I'm going through it like, there's not really a single OutKast song that is not challenging in its own way. I mean, The Way You Move certainly has a silky chorus, but Big Boy goes fast in the verses. So it's just like, well, we're just going to have to accept that there's going to be some sort of challenge here. So where could you possibly have the most fun getting through the challenges? Maybe if you do decide you are going to sing an OutKast song at karaoke, maybe prepare a little ahead of time. Maybe study if you're that dedicated. And I know there are people who are dedicated like that, because, hey, I might be one of those dedicated people. But if you're not quite so dedicated, what's one that could work for either folks? The more casual non-planners or the devoted planners. And I was like, they've got another hit that came out a few years before Hey Ya, and I often find myself kind of singing along to it. Certainly the chorus more than the verses, but there's parts of the verses and the bridges that are like, okay, we're bringing the house down. And maybe you've guessed it by now, but it's named after a certain lady called Miss Jackson. Who? And I am real with this selection. I'm not backing down. I'm not apologizing a trillion times. In fact, I am saying you're welcome a trillion times. The verses move quick, so get ready. But just when Andre says, and then when you say, me and your daughter, okay, got it going on? Okay, come on, you know what to do. And then you won't have to apologize at all. The crowd will be instead asking for you to do something quite differently, maybe taking a bow, perhaps. So there you go. Those, and maybe one more tip. There's this mashup video created by this person who makes mashup videos of rap songs and like children's TV shows. It's called Milo the Cat. He did one mashup of Gonzo, the Muppets, singing Miss Jackson. So track that video down and watch it if you need some further inspiration. So those are my suggestions. Spirit of the Night for Bruce Springsteen, Heartbreaker for Mimi, and Miss Jackson for OutKast. So there we go. Thank you, Keara, for your providing the set list. Thank you, listeners, for listening. And we should have a little Christmas special coming soon. Aunt Beth and I will be back together. And in the meantime, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I might be adding us to another social media site soon. If I can get that all set up, I'll let you know. And we're also on Patreon if you'd like to support us that way. And as always, keep your remotes handy and your eyes open.